Good evening. Welcome to Athens City Council. Tonight is Monday, March 28th, 2011. It's on or about 7 p.m. Tonight's council agenda includes, we're starting with a public hearing for the Community Development Block Grant. Then we'll be going into a regular rescheduled session of City Council. We will go into a, I understand, fairly short executive session to discuss pending and threatened litigation, and then we will come back and there will be a Community Issues Committee. So, the Community Development Block Grant public hearing, Mayor Weil.
Okay, this is our Community Development Block Grant, the Community and Housing Improvement Program, the CHIP program. We didn't do one the last round, which is a 2-year cycle, I believe. This is to do housing improvements within the city. It's administered by Hocking, Athens, Perry Community Action. We usually do a series of different programs within it. I'm going to turn it over to Greg Andrews, who's with HAVCAP, Hocking, Athens, Perry Community Action. Okay.
Okay, some information. The City of Athens intends to apply to the Ohio Department of Development for funding under fiscal year 2011 Community Housing Improvement Program, state federally funded program administered by the state of Ohio. The city is proposing to apply for $522,400 to provide the following activities: home repair, 13 units at $125,000. Private owner rehab for 3 units at $118,000. Rental rehabilitation for 5 units at $197,000. New construction for the Habitat for Humanity bill at $20,000. And administration and fair housing at $62,400.
This is the second public hearing we're required to do, so if you need, public has input or questions, we welcome them, as well as council.
Comments from council first. Any questions or comments regarding the CHIP grant?
Just quickly, could the mayor just tell us again what Greg just said quickly? Just say it more slowly.
Okay. Well, we usually do homeowner improvements in terms of rehab as well as repairs. That's a certain amount of houses. We can only spend a certain portion of the money for that. The other actions we're going to do is a little bit different than we did the last rounds. Usually in the past we've done three different activities: rehab, repair for home ownerships, and that's for low and moderate income, as well as a down payment assistance, which is usually very difficult to do in the city because of the price ranges. This year we're going to do the rehab and repair, but we're also going to do a rental repair in conjunction with Metropolitan Housing Authority. And the third item, of course, is work with Habitat for Humanities. We're going to donate a lot or two. I think we have yet to decide that. Right. It's up to us as a city what we want to donate on Alexander Street for a Habitat for Humanity house construction. The donation would save the Habitat, their grant structure is such that they will get a certain amount of money from the CHIP grant towards this construction or the procurement of a lot. By donating, they'll be able to save that money and actually put it towards the construction. So we're helping out to actually have a Habitat house built in the city by doing the donation of the lot. We have 3 lots on Alexander. You've probably noticed it a little bit on the steep side there. We'll probably be working with them to decide which one we want to. We'll probably need your say-so on that as council. Does that answer everything you need? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Probably, did I say it too fast? Okay.
One other question, I know there may not be a requirement about this, but will the Habitat House be using energy efficient protocols or, materials?
They will, yes. They are. I think they have a requirement at this point to be an Energy Star rating. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
The Habitat bill also meets a requirement of a $100,000 match that's required for the program too. So very important.
Okay.
I guess the one question I'd have, as you're saying, this is the first time that we are doing it for a rental property. What is the requirement? We've got a lot of very wealthy landlords in this town that may be able to afford to take care of this. How do we make sure that it's...
If I'm wrong, you can correct me on this. The way the rental match goes, it's a 50% match. For a landlord to actually improve their housing. But the requirement, of course, is that they have to keep within a certain low and moderate income range of the rental, if I understand that correctly. So in other words, what you're always seeing is that this would almost make it impossible for them, the normal student rental agency, to be able to rent out to students for the 500 per bedroom scenario. The other one, of course, would require 50% match, and you'd think that'd be worthwhile to do because you'd be, 50 cents on a dollar for your rental improvement. But I think in the Hendrick administration, they tried this and they didn't get any takers. And we've looked at it, I think, administratively. I've been on the Housing Advisory Council when I was on the Neighborhood Association chair to look at it, and one of the issues was is just finding people or landlords who are interested in actually doing this type of commitment. The Metropolitan Housing, of course, is dedicated to low and moderate income housing. They have rental units within the city. And if I say anything wrong, correct me. Okay?
That's right.
So therefore, it's a good match for them to do some improvements on theirs. They're already dedicated to low and moderate income. So it's a little bit of a mix that we haven't tried before.
And I might add to that, it can be structured that an LMI landlord, which is probably not going to be the case, but they could come in without the required match, and nonprofits can come in without the required match. It's pretty much up to the city to design that. But anybody that's beyond that is going to be a 50% requirement to match that.
Okay.
And again, the rent restrictions keeps the properties out of the mix pretty much.
This is the same difficulty we have with the down payment assistance, too. The housing prices are so high that nobody with a low and moderate income parameter within that range can actually get a mortgage. And this is the difficulty of many of the tasks that go with the CHIP grants. There's at least about maybe 10 or 12 activities we can do, but we're limited by the structure of the city, of what we can actually do, and the economics of it.
This
Any
is
other
an
questions?
odd housing town that we live in, isn't it?
Yep.
Other questions, comments from council?
Unique, I think, is the term.
That's a nice term.
I guess what the mayor just said raised a question that I have. Then, if we don't find enough eligible properties and/or people in one of these categories, can the money be shifted to another category, or is it just go back to the...
question.
It would be at a price that we may be able to approach Department of Development to do that, but again, that'll be a finding in your next funding round. So we certainly don't want to do that.
One of the things, if we do not succeed in everything we're trying to do, it becomes a score against us for the next cycle.
Right.
Again, I'm aware historically, and I'm sure you are, the Hendrick administration was very aggressive in what they wanted to do, and they did not succeed in many cases. And it's a question of let's do it all. And that's why we're being a little bit conservative when we say let's do this, this, and this. In the past, we've just done the rehab and rebuilding and the down payment system, but very few down payment systems, maybe one or two over a 2-year, 18-month period, because that's all we could guarantee we could get. And so that we've been trying to keep our goals or sites low because we didn't want those black marks on the next round. And that's the thing. We could, if you said we could change them, we could change it, but probably it would hurt our next attempt at this in 2 years.
Well, I think that's why we're trying the rental rehab in partnership with Metropolitan Housing to make sure it works this time around, and then we'll see.
Other comments, concerns, criticisms? Anyone from the public wishing to comment at a public hearing? Yes, please. We need you to come to the microphone so that they can hear you out there. And if you could just state your name, please.
Steve Patterson. I kind of had the same question that Chris Nisley had, and that has to do with the rental rehab, if you're going to use Energy Star rating material for that as well, for that type of rehab.
For the rental?
Correct.
The work will have to be in compliance with the RS, the Residential Rehabilitation Standards. This is a set of standards mandated through the Department of Development, and they are not necessarily Energy Star ratings. They are, but they are governed by the weatherization standards that are adopted by the state of Ohio.
Okay. All right.
But we don't do. I mean, the program doesn't do appliance replacement or those kind of things, so that didn't come into the mix. But.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any other comments at all?
One last thing,
Yes,
anybody
Mayor.
who's coming late, there is a sign-up sheet someplace, just for record keeping, so we know everybody's been at a public hearing. Anybody who hasn't, please sign.
And we ask you to sign even if you do not plan on speaking. Well, seeing no other comments and seeing that it's still about almost 20 minutes before our meeting of council, we'll take about a quick 20-minute break and we'll see you back here at 7:30. March 28th, 2011. It's on or about 7:30, and we are having a regular session of council that has been rescheduled from last week. We do have a quorum with all members of council present. Next item on our agenda is the disposition of minutes from the special session held February 28th, 2011. Do I have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept the minutes, please.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The minutes have been accepted. Under communication, I do have one short item that comes to us from the office of John R. Kasich, Governor, addressed to Council Clerk Walker, and it's short enough that I will read it. This will confirm receipt by the Governor's Office of Resolution R0411 passed by Athens City Council on January 31st, 2011 regarding cuts to local government funding and opposing Ohio House Bill 3. Expressions of your views on this important matter is appreciated and duly noted. Signed, Brad D. Reynolds. Okay, any other communication for anyone would like to share? Reports and communications from other elected officials. Mayor Weil.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see, a couple things. During the break there, we had the city sweeper going out extra time. In fact, I just learned today that we actually rented an extra sweeper for the week, which is news to me. The other thing is I'd like to give kudos to Les Cornwell. He had his crew out there cleaning the sidewalk all week, basically both sides of Court Street. I think he got it all done. I don't know. We kind of helped him out. We gave him free water, gave some bags to bag out the meter so people wouldn't get their cars paint removed as well, and gave him some signage so he could close down the sidewalk on each section as he went across. But as I say, if you haven't noticed, a lot of it's been cleaned up. We'll see how it continues on that. Some of the other things we did during the break was we put a pedestrian ped sign at Washington and College here at the crosswalk. It's not entirely done, but I know it's working at this point. We are going to have, of course, the town hall meeting, April 19th, 6:30. This is going to be on diversity, civility, and community relations. We're working with OU on this, and everybody's invited. If you have input, please contact Ron Lucas, my Assistant Service Agent Director. He's kind of putting the agenda together on this, and it starts at 6:30 at the Athens Community Center. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we do have our spring cleanup yearly, April 25th to the 29th, and that's the week where you put out your extra bags, spring cleanup to clean up your area. We also, at the end of that week, are going to have that hazardous waste pickup in conjunction with the Athens Township. So this is new and different. We've added the township to the mix. And that will be the 30th, this Saturday, between 9 and 1 at the community center as well. You guys are going to have a street tour, right? And that's, I haven't gotten an exact beat on the time. Is it 8:30 or 8?
8.
8, okay. I know some people will be disappointed because they're late sleepers. That's okay.
It's April 9th, right?
April 9th, Saturday, yes. The Planning Commission, Athens City Planning Commission, is going to have a public hearing on internet cafes and the planning and development on Hickory Street. And this will be next Wednesday, April 6th. That's a week from this Wednesday at 12 o'clock. And again, this is part of the planning and development. This is a development that's going on back behind C&E off of Richland Avenue. The Hickory Street just runs a short distance there. And the internet cafes, I think you've heard a little bit about already. As that law gets put through the process, eventually you'll see it too. Also, I'd like to thank the city street crew. They were filling and missing bricks all week long last week on Court Street. I saw them tamping things down and pushing sand around and putting the bricks back in. It's almost like a jigsaw puzzle watching them try and do that. I also swore in an interim captain, Dave Williams, he's a lieutenant. We bumped him up to captain for an interim period, so we have a full hierarchy within our police department. That was swearing in was today. We're just getting ready for the spring quarter, so we wanted to have at least a chain of command in place. I see you have an ordinance, of course, that's going to be relating to the other lieutenants. And we did, Kathy and I both attended the county's budget commission and heard the semi-fair news, I guess, of local government funds and where they're going or not going. And that's really all I have to, it's been a busy, slow week.
OU's closed and we got some work done. Is that kind of it? I too would like to thank Les Cornwell for the public contribution he made. And I really hope people just quit throwing gum on the sidewalks. It really,
Cigarette butts, too.
watching, yeah, exactly. But I was having lunch at Subway one day and watched out the window how long it took for that process, which is the only one I know that's worked at all in trying to get that stuff up off the sidewalks. But it really takes a long time. It's a lot of work.
And essentially, as I say, he did a lot of work. He's ponying up the money on that. I'm assuming that the Uptown Business Association is going to help him defray the cost as well. I mean, we're helping a little bit what we can, but again, it's the sidewalk, and your sidewalk would have to be, if you had a sidewalk, would have to be cleaned by you personally. So he's doing over and above. He's just not doing his. He's doing everybody's, which is very nice.
It's really expensive and a nice contribution. Any comments or questions for the mayor? On to City Auditor Kathy Hecht.
I just want to expand on the mayor's comments about the meeting he and I attended at the county with the County Budget Commission, where they did a really good job actually of trying to predict what the cuts in the funding would be and to give us some figures to go by. However, they used 2 or 3 formulas depending on different funding sources, because we don't really know exactly what's going to happen, but we're sure there are going to be cuts. I handed out 2 handouts. Did everybody get a single page and then 3 pages? I'll just go over this briefly. On the single page, one of the ones, and the mayor mentioned this too, that we are looking at is the local government funds that they are reducing. And as you see, it's highlighted, and we projected $505,000 in revenue this year. The figures from the County Budget Commission range around $534,000 to $540,000, so we are within the limits. We already made cuts. We planned for this. So I just want to reassure everybody that that's part of the reason the unappropriated balance in the general fund is so low. But we did not budget for money that we thought might not be there. And I'm not inclined to add it back in, even if it comes in higher than that, until it does actually, until we know. Tangible personal property is another one that's highlighted. They talked about we did not budget anything in that. And we did not budget anything in the impacted funds that we get through the State Board of Regents for OU for police and fire support. The other one I have highlighted is not really a state budget cut. It has to do with our service payment from University Courtyard. And we budgeted this year, but we didn't get a payment last year. If you want to look on the second handout on the second page, we budgeted about $75,000. The second handout is a revenue comparison sheet that has revenue from the year before, which is 2009. In 2009, we got $65,000 for that. Last year, we didn't get a payment. The Service Safety Director has been talking to people and sent numerous emails that I've been included on, and we have yet to see that payment. We were told it would be in by the end of the year. Still has not come in. So that's one we're going to have to look at, because we budgeted a reduced amount for this year, about 1.5 payments, but as I said, I'm not sure what they're going to do.
I had a meeting today with Mr. Goulding and Becky Watts concerning this, and we did bring it up again. As far as I know, they will reimburse us for both years. That's what I was told. Although we haven't seen the check, we're just waiting for it. Just I didn't mean to...
Yeah, no, well, I'm glad that
Just
you
an
also
update.
heard it, but we've been hearing that for at least 6 months, I'd say. So we'll see.
Check is in the mail.
You're right, yeah. Maybe they're going to wait and do them both at one time. However, that's not the way it's supposed to work, and, that's money that we could use. And just to go on and explain a little bit about the three-page handout is the revenue comparison. This is for the end of last year. It shows what our actual revenue was for last year and the revenue from the year before. So there's no need to go through that whole thing tonight, but if you want to look at any other general fund sources of revenue and see where it's been heading, you can look at that. That's pretty handy.
Also, you note the estate tax on that one sheet, piece of paper we have. That estate tax is being discussed as being phased out in 2013, I
I thought 2012, but yeah.
2012.
They're talking about, and as you see, our estimated revenue for that this year is $265,000. We've had probably at least $200,000 since I came into office. And actually, we did get almost that much for our payment from February. So that's a big chunk of money that we'll lose if that does get phased out next year or the year after, whatever they decide. Any questions?
Comments for the auditor? Yes, Member Fall.
With the university courtyard, is that a legal obligation that they have with us?
Not really, is it?
It's a contract, it's an agreement that was drawn up, I believe.
It is.
Well, a contract is a legal obligation.
Right.
And I think one of the reasons why it's been held off and tardy is because there's a formula that goes with this, and the formula includes like a 10% reduction as well as, and the question is, does that come into play at this point? The other one has to do with occupancy. So there's a little bit of interpretation that's going on and saying how much do we actually have to pay. A lot of this is a pass-through to the to the school system. I think about 60% or 70%.
So this is
70.
also their payment
What?
in lieu of taxes to the school system.
Right.
Yeah.
Although the
They
contract
have-
does say this has nothing to do with taxes, but that's one way of looking at it.
And you're anticipating that the impact fees from the state for OU is going to be zeroed out in the...
Well, yeah, that's not anything I've been told, but it's gone down so much in the last 6 or 7 years since I've been in office that, $26,000 is really not much when it comes to our police and fire costs. And so we just took it out of the budget just to be on the safe side.
So
It is something. The Board of Regents could decide not to do that.
Right.
And I don't know if that was last year or the year before, they did not have it in the original budget and added it later, and we got our payment late.
So all our extra costs for Springfest and such is completely on the taxpayers of Athens now, as opposed,
Yes,
local
it is.
taxes, as opposed to the state helping out because the university has so much tax-free land. That's one of the reasons to have that.
You're exactly right.
So,
Other comments for the auditor? City Law Director Patrick Lane.
Thank you, Mr. President. I did want to make one brief comment this evening regarding the procedure for the initiative petition process. And I mention this because I had been approached by several people last week who had been under the mistaken impression that the petitions for the noise ordinance initiative had been filed with the auditor's office. And I just wanted to make sure that folks understood that is not the case. What was filed last week was the proposed ballot language. Which under the Ohio Revised Code has to be filed with the city auditor's office prior to the petitions being circulated. So at this point, they would have the option of circulating the petitions, and in order to get the initiative onto the ballot, would require 10%, the signatures from 10% of the votes that were cast in the last governor's election in the city of Athens. And then at that point, those petitions would be filed with the auditor's office, and that would trigger a 10-day public inspection period, after which those petitions would be forwarded to the Board of Elections for certification to see which signatures were good or if any of the signatures needed to be struck. So I just wanted to clarify that procedure on the initiative process. Thank you.
Questions for the Law Director? We move on to ordinances for third reading. Ordinance 1811 is an ordinance amending Ordinance 8506, creating an unclaimed monies fund and establishing GAAP guidelines. Member Sands.
Mr. President, I move adoption of ordinance 1811.
Second.
There actually is an ordinance that creates the unclaimed monies fund, but we're amending it We're removing some language. The current language says checks and reimbursements to owners who cannot be located. We're taking out that reimbursements to owners who cannot be located. We're removing that language and cleaning up that's the way the fund should read.
Further discussion on ordinance 1811. All those in favor of the ordinance?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance has been adopted. We move on to ordinances for first reading. Ordinance 2611 is an ordinance authorizing construction of the Mill Street Sewer Replacement, project number 252. Member Bain.
Mr. President, as you can see, the whereas starts the process going. If there's anything wrong with this ordinance, it isn't that we didn't try to get it right, but here goes. We are getting CDBG monies from 2 years totaling $159,000 plus, some of which was appropriated, some of which is going to be appropriated in this ordinance. Notice that we will authorize the Safety Service Director to advertise, accept bids where necessary, and enter into contracts for the Mill Street Sewer Replacement Project, which also has a street component and also has a sidewalk component. Section 2, we're going to appropriate from the unappropriated balance to the sewer debt fund, where we sometimes store money to be used for this process. And then in Section 3, we're going to take that $232,000 and move it over to the regular sewer fund, 750, where it can be expended. And then in Section 4, we're appropriating the CDBG money, community development block grant money that has not been appropriated, and it'll be ready to go then in Section 5, where we have the total for the project, $465,000, and which will come as was, if you note above, 159 from the CDBG fund, and from the street fund, 73.5, and from the sewer fund, 232,000. We've already replaced the storm sewers in this area. This is a regular old residential area that now is a higher density area, and it's also eligible for CDBG, hence we're doing this project. And you've heard about this before.
Further comments on ordinance 26?
Thank you, Debbie.
Yes, Mayor Weil.
Again, this says we have an increased density down on Mill Street over time. This is actually an evolution of a grant we were trying for. I think it was the Neighborhood Stabilization Grant. We had talked about the need for this. We had studied it at the time. And part of it, originally the CDBG money was part of that match at the time. So we did not get the grant, but we decided to proceed forward with this as well. As you can tell, the majority of the money spent, of course, is going to be underneath the road. This is one thing you learn quite quickly, is that the infrastructure below the road is much more pricey than the stuff above the road. You're right, there's a component. We've started an assessment process for the sidewalks. You'll be involved in that more, depending on if people question it or not. I don't know what the timetable is on that. We should be almost at the back end of the feedback part. And again, this is 2 years of our general formula money that we've put in place of it. And you can tell the road needs it as well. The top part does.
Other comments? On to ordinance 2711. It's an ordinance amending the 2011 appropriation ordinance and authorizing an interfund transfer. Member Bain.
Mr. President, this ordinance contains all of the material that we talked about in our last meeting just before break. Section 1 talks about moving money into a fund that will allow us to expend $20,000 to hire out-of-town police and mounted to take care of the fests this spring. It's something that ended up on the news for some unknown reason. People said, I heard you on the news, and I said, I didn't even remember talking the day before, but people picked it up and when everybody was gone and talked about it. It's not very popular among the people who live in Athens paying this kind of money for parties, I don't think, because it doesn't even include the overtime, the regular overtime. And I hope I'm not giving them another soundbite by doing this. But in any case, I guess I am. It is a lot of money when times are tough. We talk about cutting $300,000, and here we are spending money that might be spent on a different activity. jokingly asked the law director for some way to recoup some of our money. We still haven't paid for Halloween, you know. That would be in a separate ordinance. Maybe this will include Halloween. But we spend an awful lot of money taking care of business when parties happen in this town. And I hope those of you that are thinking about the initiative petition remember that. And so that's a little Section 1 summary. And it says, to cover costs with high impact spring weekends. That's what we're doing. Section 2, we're moving money around. We have a revolving loan fund that we have, takes state money that is paid back and place in there. We are taking $200,000 out. We're going to use it in the project that is down on Columbus Road, and the rest actually of these will follow from that. Well, no, they're not actually associated with them at all, but this is an additional $200,000. $360,000 to the Community Center Fund to take care of energy improvements, and $234,000 to shift money that we've collected using TIF funds and send it to the school for its share and for auditor's fees. And the remainder is in the TIF for improvements in the road, East State Street Road, from Cook Drive to 33. And then $250,000 for transfer, as you can see, to TIF Fund 593, and $24,000 to the Water Fund for transfer. We're going to hear about that in a future ordinance, I think. And then actually the auditor is hereby authorized to make the following interfund transfers in Section 3, and then it's in effect as soon as it's signed by the mayor. So this one and the one before it we'd like to read next week, maybe read on the 11th and then pass it off.
Other comments on ordinance 27? Ordinance 2811 is an ordinance amending ordinance 12110, authorizing staffing levels and declaring an emergency. Who wishes to speak to this? Member Kuhn.
Thank you, Mr. President. The whereas pretty much explains this ordinance. The number of police lieutenants was increased to accommodate an officer on military leave and was intended to only be temporary. Section 1, effective April 1st, 2011, ordinance 12110, authorized staffing levels, is hereby amended to reduce the number of police lieutenants from 6 to 5, as attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference. So it's pretty simple. It was just intended to be temporary, and so we just need to reduce the number of lieutenants.
Member Kuhn, I've just been informed by the clerk that we probably will need to suspend the rules on this ordinance.
Tonight? It's going into effect April 1st. Oh, that's right, which is Friday. I move to consider this ordinance under suspension of the rules.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion on suspension only. All those in favor of suspension of the rules?
Aye.
Opposed? The rules have been suspended.
Mr. President, I move to adopt ordinance 2811.
Second.
And the reason, as previously stated, is that this needs to be effective April 1st, which is Friday.
And all the other reasons you talked about?
And all the other
Wyatt?
reasons, yes.
Further discussion on ordinance 28? All those in favor of adoption?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance has been adopted. Ordinance 2911 is an ordinance providing for the issuance of $60,000 of water system revenue notes, 14th renewal, 2011, by the City of Athens, Ohio, for the purpose of renewing notes previously issued for the purpose of financing certain litigation costs. Member Sands.
Mr. President, this ordinance does just what the title says. It's authorizing $60,000 for the renewal of some notes that the city has renewed 14 times now with regard to some problems we've had on West State Street well fields. This is a fine that has arisen from that activity, and this may be the last time that we have to deal with it, we hope.
Other comments?
I do have one comment.
Yes.
I don't know if you
Kathy
said this or
Heck.
not, but the $1 fee that is on people's utility bills has been going to pay for this, and that's why we're able to pay down $95,000, and so $60,000, and as Member Sand said, this should be the last time we have to do this. We should be able to pay it off next year.
We'll see. Other comments? Under ordinance 3011, an ordinance adopting green building design standards for municipal property. Member Gosney.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ordinance 3011 was put together in part response to some energy efficiency work we're doing at the community center, and realizing that the age of many of the city buildings and the state they're in, some of them, looking towards the future, we want to make sure that our buildings are constructed in a sustainable way and are built efficiently. We looked towards established guidelines, leadership in energy and environmental design ratings, and this is through the U.S. Green Building Council. This is a standard that's used throughout the country in many other cities and by many organizations. So this ordinance would establish minimum guidelines that city construction projects, only city-owned, city-funded projects, would be required to follow. And those are as follows. New construction and major renovations of city buildings would have to meet a silver certification through the LEED system. And we would encourage the city to incorporate these same sustainable building practices for smaller projects that we're undertaking, and also encouraging other developers in the city to look at sustainable building practices when they're planning their new construction projects. There is a size limit. Because of the added cost that some of this incurs, we have the requirement applying to buildings that are 5,000 square feet or above in size. And the city has plenty of those. And so it seemed reasonable to exempt smaller projects from having to meet these requirements. There's also an exemption clause in here, which would, by resolution of City Council, allow any construction project to be exempt from these requirements. For example, if there's a historical building that, for one reason or another, is unable to meet these standards, or if it's a unique building such as a parking garage or something of that nature that is not intended to have to meet these types of guidelines. And that pretty much sums up the ordinance, and this is a first reading of that.
Other comments on ordinance 3011? Ordinance 31.
An annual appropriation for caring for our streets. Some of the streets are designated for patching, others for repaving, and the final list for these repairs is determined a little bit later in the year after we've gone through our annual street tour, which, as you've heard, will take place on April 9th at 8 o'clock in the morning. And the appropriation, or this ordinance, will be appropriating $250,000 to the Street Rehab Fund for the purposes of these repairs this year.
Okay. Other comments? Mayor Weil?
For your street tour, if anybody wants, it is technically a public meeting. We hope that you'd either communicate with Debbie Walker, anybody who wants to attend, because of limitations on the bus. We usually commandeer a bus from the city bus garage, and whether we need two buses or one big bus or some combination thereof would depend on the RSVPs we get. So I would say anybody who's up at 8 o'clock and wants to come along, please tell us beforehand.
My guess is those that have been driving Richland Avenue might want to get on the bus with us. Other comments? Announcements and other business. I have to make one announcement. That baby's been so good tonight. Any other announcements? Opportunity for citizens to speak on items that we did not cover on tonight's agenda concerning legislative items or city services. Is there anyone wishing to speak before council? I know there will probably be some people very interested during the Community Issues Committee. The next item on our agenda, seeing no one wishing to speak on those items, is an executive session that the law director has asked to meet with council and possibly members of the administration regarding pending threatened litigation. And given a number of people that wish to see us during the Community Issues Committee, I would say the council should meet in its office and then come back, and you folks can stay here. And from everything I hear,
Very long.
maybe about 10 minutes. He says 5 minutes, it's always 10. But before we can go into a session of executive session, I need to have a motion for who we would like to attend and then a roll call. Who would we like to attend?
I so move, and to include also the law director, the mayor, the auditor.
Yeah. Okay.
Second, and aye.
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 Okay. Again, we should be back. It's 8 o'clock. We'll try to be back here by 10 after, and we will go into the committee I'm sure you came to hear about tonight. Welcome back to Athens City Council. Now we're going into a Community Issues Committee. Committee Chair, Jim Sands.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one issue on our agenda of the Community Issues Committee, and we're going to hear from Mickey Hart, who's representing the LGBT Concerns Coalition, with some suggestions for some resolutions for the City Council to put in place.
Good evening, I'm Mickey Hart, and I live on Columbia Avenue here in Athens. Tonight I'm here representing a group of concerned citizens who have been working for nearly a year as we've been calling ourselves the Committee to Move Athens Forward, particularly forward on LGBT issues and inclusion, but also concerned about greater issues of social justice and community inclusion. I will be presenting tonight, but I also will have help from Tracy Kelly, Linda Nippert, and Amelia Shaw, and we're going to be as brief as possible. We have 3 proposals that we would like to have City Council consider implementing. We feel that doing so will bring Athens City Council's practice in line with stated policies and values. And this is most especially true of the city's commitment to be part of the inclusive community partner benefits to city employees and establish a domestic partner registry through the City of Athens. In developing these proposals, we have consulted with Equality Ohio, Trans Ohio, Athens Area PFLAG, and of course, with my presence here, the Ohio University LGBT Center. Locally, we have consulted with and/or advised the Athens Community Relations Commission, the Athens Police Department, other local law enforcement, the mayor, the city law director, and several members of council. We will present about each proposal and take questions. If you have them immediately after, we can take them, or we can wait till the end and answer any questions all at the end of the question and answer period. We'll also, if these proposals go forward, we would gladly be here to answer any questions at future time as well. And Tracy will present our first proposal. It's to strengthen hate crime laws in Athens, and it's the most detailed proposal because it deals with law directly. Tracy?
My name's Tracy Kelly. I live at 35 Wolf Street here in Athens, and I'm here to discuss, as Mickey said, our first proposal for the creation.
Tracy, can you try pulling the microphone down?
Can you hear me now? Is that an improvement? Okay. My name's Tracy Kelly. I live at 35 Wolf Street here in Athens, and as Mickey already said, I'm here to discuss our first proposal for the creation of a Athens City hate crimes policy. So, the purpose of our hate crimes policy is to demonstrate our commitment to valuing human life and dignity by taking a proactive role in creating a safe and welcoming community and ensuring that the rights of all individuals are protected. Our policy is also in keeping with the spirit of the 2009 Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act, which acknowledges the ripple effect of bias-motivated violence on the greater community. It is also intended to comply with the Hate Crime Statistics Act requirements, the Ohio Revised Code, and the Ohio Incident-Based Reporting System. The definition of hate crimes that we use in this particular policy is as follows. A hate crime is defined as an act that is committed, threatened, or attempted on any person or against the property of another individual or group that may in any way constitute an expression of bias on the basis of race, religion, ethnic or national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, or other forms of discrimination. Motivated by prejudice, hate crimes may include, but are not limited to, threatening communications, physical assaults, criminal mischief, menacing, aggravated menacing, vandalism, and the destruction of religious symbols. Now, before I moved into more details about the policy itself, I did want to take a moment to try to dispel some misunderstandings about hate crime so that we all had a better understanding of what would be entailed were this ordinance to go forward. I think it's important to acknowledge that hate crimes legislation does not violate freedom of speech. Harassment and threats of violence are not protected speech, and hate crimes legislation would not pose any threat to legitimate political discourse. It's also important to recognize that not all crimes are motivated by hate and are therefore not defined as hate crimes. This is important because it eliminates any redundancy with pre-existing criminal law. Hate crimes are not random acts or crimes of opportunity. They are leveled against individuals on the basis of specific characteristics and are often especially brutal or symbolic. Hate crimes legislation is not an attempt to provide special rights or to argue that crimes against some citizens are more severe than crimes against others. On the contrary, these policies are an attempt to increase awareness of the motivation behind and impact of hate crime violence. Hate crimes are an attack not only on particular citizens, but upon the diversity of entire communities. According to the Department of Justice, there may be as many as 63,000 hate crimes committed in the United States every year. Most of these crimes go unrecognized or unreported. The establishment of inclusive hate crimes policy on the municipal level is an important first step in improving our understanding of and response to bias-motivated crimes in our own community. In order to facilitate these goals, our hate crimes policy asks that the Athens City Police Department, with input from Athens City Council, the Athens Community Relations Commission, and other stakeholders as applicable, adopt a set of procedures for the determination and reporting of hate crimes. We request that these procedures acknowledge both the serious and sensitive nature of these crimes, as well as the importance of proper documentation and reporting of these incidents. We also ask that these procedures would be codified and adopted within 4 months of the passage of this ordinance. Additionally, we ask that Athens City Police Department establish and implement initial and ongoing training procedures to equip officers with the means to investigate, recognize, and respond to bias-motivated crimes. We further request that these educational initiatives be timed to coincide with the implementation of this ordinance and commence within 8 months of the ordinance's adoption. Are there any questions at this time? All right.
Probably not at this time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Linda Nippert. I live on Parmiter Road in Amesville. Our second proposal is to establish domestic partner benefits for City of Athens employees. While Athens is known to be progressive, the city is behind the trend on this effort, as offering of domestic partner benefits is becoming the standard with 137 state and local governments, 164 colleges and universities, including Ohio University, 60% of Fortune 500 companies, and nearly 4,000 other private companies, nonprofits, and unions all offer domestic partner benefits. These entities offer these benefits because it is the right thing to do. Plus, it is good, smart, solid, and profitable business practice. Offering these benefits is good for the employee, creates a more equitable employment compensation package, enhances the family structure and their safety and security, demonstrates the city's value for and respect of the employee. Offering these benefits is good for the city. We remain competitive in the recruitment and retention of the best employees. We ensure that the terms, conditions, and privileges of employment by the City of Athens are applied equally. We bring our actions in line with our stated values and policies. Offering such benefits does not conflict with any federal, state, or local laws. But to be clear, due to federal tax regulations, these domestic partner benefits are seen as taxable income. So unlike heterosexual married couples, employees opting for these benefits would be taxed for the benefits. So even in trying to make employment compensation more equitable, there will still be some discrepancy. The cost of offering domestic partner benefits will be fairly negligible. It is not anticipated that the city will see a large number of employees opting for such benefits. Also, if these benefits had been extended years ago, the city would now just consider this cost to be part of the overall employee package. In the proposal, you will see a case for establishing this benefit option, the process for establishing the procedures and requirements for registering for these benefits, and some additional guidelines for implementation. We have left this proposal very open to allow flexibility in creating the procedure and implementation of these benefits. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Amelia Shaw, and I live on East Green Drive in Athens. Our third proposal is to establish a domestic partner registry through the City of Athens. Domestic partnership refers to the non-marital intimate relationship of two adults of the same or different sex who share a common residence and affirm that they share responsibility for each other's common welfare and have signed and filed a declaration of domestic partnership with the city. The City of Athens registry would be available to the same and different sex couples in and around the City of Athens. The registry creates a system through which individuals in committed and caring relationships can record their relationships, making it easier for private and public institutions to recognize such couples for purposes such as visitations, health insurance and other benefits, authorization to pick up children from access to recreational facilities, family packages, and services at businesses. A domestic partner registry is helpful to families because it makes it easier for institutions and businesses to give non-marital families important benefits and encourages all families to feel welcome and valued in Athens. It gives widowed seniors certain benefits without remarrying, which could put them at risk for losing benefits from Social Security on a deceased spouse's pension. A domestic partner registry also helps local businesses and institutions because it makes it easier to create family-friendly policies for all customers and patrons. It also removes the administrative burden to define and verify the existence of family relationships. And it helps local employees attract a talented, diverse workforce and forge new business relationships. The domestic partner registry will not cost the taxpayers anything. In fact, this fee may make money for the city. It is merely a fee-for-service proposition. Such registries do not conflict with any federal, state, or local laws. You will see in the proposal that you should have in front of you that a more descriptive case for creating a domestic partner registry is in there. Definitions, filing, registration, and termination processes, the establishment of criteria including that both share common residence, both affirm that they have an intimate relationship and share responsibility for each other's common welfare, neither is married to any third party, both are not part of an existing domestic partnership with any third party, both are 18 years of age and older, and that the individuals are not related to one another. And that's the end of that. So if you have any questions, I think we could take them at this time about all three. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your time tonight, your assistance throughout the process, and your consideration of the three proposals. Our committee has been dedicated to seeing Athens live up to her words through action, policies, procedures, with consideration to equality, support, inclusion of all citizens, employees, and visitors. We hope that City Council sees merit in making Athens stronger as a community by strengthening hate crime laws, providing domestic partner benefits to city employees, and establishing a domestic partner registry. At this time, Tracy and I will take any questions you have about any of the proposals.
Council members, any questions at this point?
Thank you for all the work and the helpful and background information. This is my own ignorance about other cities in which a domestic partner registry may occur. Are there other cities in Ohio, and is, in those particular cases, is the city then charged with the record-keeping kind of enforcement of the registry?
The city, and it lays out in there that I believe it's municipal court that this would go through. So it would be part of a procedure that happens in court, and like all records, they would keep any records pertaining to, I guess, anything that they do. There are a few other cities. I believe that Yellow Springs offers this, and actually one of the smaller neighborhoods outside of Cleveland, and I cannot recall that area, also offers this. It's also something that the statewide LGBT advocacy and equality organization, Equality Ohio, is working to have other cities establish as well. So while we are behind on offering domestic partner benefits, we are still kind of on the upward curve of offering registry.
Okay, thank you.
You have questions? Do you guys? So Yellow Springs and someplace in Cleveland. I guess some of the questions, I'm not sure if the municipal court is the best place for the record keeping, but I'll find out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
The other one is, it'd be interesting to see what a form of this nature looks like. The next question I have is access to this form in terms of who, this is a public document. Everybody would know the registry, of course, and that's not a problem, I assume. Okay.
Well, it's something that you would opt into. So I think that's part of the process of the application. We would make people informed of all of that.
And I see it as an administration fee to cover the paperwork too, I noticed.
Yes. Okay. So it should, at this point, again, I don't see a big run on the office to have this paperwork filled out, but I think it sends a message about the kind of community we are and the welcoming kind of community that we are. But yes, if there were any cost associated, and even if it's something that the city could utilize in helping us even further our Inclusive Communities initiative, that we could look at what the fee might be. And this proposal leaves that wide open for you all to set.
And I'm aware that the universities have done this for about 10 years now. So we have a model, at least on their level, of how they do it. I'm thinking of the technical nuts and bolts.
In terms of domestic partner benefits and establishing this? Yes, actually there's on the Ohio University's LGBT Center website, there's a collection of the policies, procedure, affidavit, all of those kinds of things.
Okay,
and quite honestly, we pull from a variety of sources to put that together and establish those. But we would gladly, as a committee, help you find additional sources as well.
Okay.
I'm not sure I heard correctly, but I believe I heard Social Security benefits mentioned. Is the registry approved by Social Security? Does that really apply?
I think that what we were talking about there is that widowed spouses who may receive Social Security benefits could register as well, or benefit from registering. It wouldn't impact that, from my understanding. In other words, it wouldn't take away. Many older folks may want to choose to get married, but wouldn't get married necessarily, or remarry because they may lose benefits or have a decrease in benefits.
I see. Okay.
This would allow them to maintain those benefits, and then also get some other benefits, maybe such as reduced membership at the community center or other places. So to have that family recognition there.
Okay.
But also in terms of visitation and some other things would have that person be seen as part of their current family.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you again, Nikki and others, for your hard work in putting this together and sharing the information with us. I am reflecting briefly about a conversation that Nikki and I had on the phone. On one level, it's hard for me to imagine that these are issues today, that we have to have this discussion. But on another level, I'm glad we're having the discussion. It's just unfathomable for me to even imagine 63,000 hate crimes in a year. It's saddening. But thank you again for your work.
Any other?
I'd also like to thank the members of the committee that put this together and everyone that showed up tonight in support of this. This is, really it's about the values we have as community members and what we want to see our community as. I think it's clear that in Athens we want to be as inclusive as we can and embrace all members of our community in an equal manner. I think most people in Athens would say they want to live in a community where the neighbor on your left is treated the same as your neighbor on your right, where the city employee, the public employee working in one part of the city is treated the same as an employee in another part. And so for me, it's really about the fairness and equality and how those fit into our community. And so I'm very happy to see this come forward, so thank you.
Any other questions from the audience this time? Okay, council, shall we bring this forward for first reading next meeting? Are we ready? Okay.
Has the law director reviewed everything?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, okay, we will do that at the next meeting, and as representatives here have said, they'll be have people here to answer any questions, because as you look at these proposals, council members, they have lots of more information in them than any of these three women got to, because they didn't want to give everything away. So
I don't think you wanted us to read these word for word.
Not three, you're right, sorry.
And we have another regular session of council a week from tonight. We're just kind of out of sync tonight, but we'll go back on regular schedule next Monday. So Monday at 7:30.
I will point out, if the timetable is correct, the second reading will occur April 18th, which is the day before our town hall meeting for diversity, civility. So this would be an opportunity if we need to discuss it at the town hall meeting in that venue. That's another possibility too. But by the second reading, we probably should have more questions. If we have more questions, we'll get them answered at that meeting.
Good point. Thank you. At this time, Community Issues Committee has nothing else to consider.
Thanks, Mickey.
And we have addressed all items on our agenda and stand adjourned.